Hey guys, Scallywag here, and I just wanted to do a review of the Guitars Garden website and the Firefly Guitars brand, and specifically this Baritone guitar that I bought from them, which I am pretty happy with and am not really here to complain about, but I'm also not here to brag about it. This is a cheap guitar, and you do get what you pay for, but I will say that this is not my best cheap guitar. It is probably one of my worst, and the only reason that I'm happy with it is because I bought this for the most limited play of any guitar. Okay, so I really bought this guitar just because I wanted to have a baritone guitar, at least one, just in case I ever needed one. And I also knew I wanted one and needed one because I like to play heavy metal that gets extremely down-tuned. However, I didn't really need it for that because I do have a 7-string guitar, right? So both of those can go down to A or even G if I want it to become, kind of floppy and sludgy. But definitely A to maintain the tension. But also, one of my favorite bands is Them Crooked Vultures, and if you don't know who they are, they're a band made up of Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters and Nirvana, Joshua Homme from Queens of the Stone Age and other projects, and John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. And they are an extremely innovative band. They are very funky and heavy and bluesy and groovy and dark and just awesome all around. And I could go on and on about them and how they innovate, but they use instruments such as like baritone guitar combined with like slide guitar and stuff. They're so innovative, and in order to play my favorite songs by them, I needed a baritone guitar, right? I couldn't tune my other guitars down far enough, and even trying to play them on my 7-string just wasn't ideal, okay? Because they also use some alternate tunings. So these two strings to play my favorite song by them are tuned to A and then A octave higher. So I bought this mainly to play Them Crooked Vultures and any other songs I might need in the future to play on baritone guitar. But right now I'm just playing my favorite songs by Them Crooked Vultures. So because I have such limited use for this, I'm quite happy with it. All right, but if I was buying this to be my main guitar and I had higher standards because I was a professional guitarist doing a lot of recording and playing out, this probably wouldn't be up to par for me. And so here's why, and here are the trade-offs you can expect when buying a cheap baritone guitar from Guitars Garden by Firefly. For starters, it is very heavy, probably because they need a heavy-duty neck with a very strong truss rod to maintain the string tension on such a long I mean, it's long, right? That's what a baritone guitar is. So that might be expected on any baritone guitar. Baritone guitars might just be heavier than regular guitars because they need to have big, strong necks. All right, but this is a guitar that is so heavy that I cannot play a whole set of songs with it without getting a sore shoulder, okay? And I'm a bodybuilder, right? So that's kind of saying a lot, but it's also might not be because I also do get sore shoulders a lot from bodybuilding. So take that with a grain of salt. Again, you're dealing with a cheap guitar here, so there's going to be trade-offs. Another thing, the pickups are not great, okay? They are good enough, but they're not the best, again, to be expected with a cheap guitar. But I personally can't complain because with pickups that aren't the best, you can also just put them through a really good rig and they do sound better. All right, so there's that. And then another thing, the guitar came with the knobs coming off of the the black plastic part in there, and I had to glue it in because what happens is when I was turning it, it would get to the point where it was turned all the way, like the setting had been turned all the way, but if I kept turning it, I could. Like, it's kind of loose. So that's not great. In this one I basically keep in the top position, but this one I like to turn back and forth, and so it was a problem that the knob was loose on the plastic part, and I wouldn't know when or if I had turned it all the way. So I had to glue those together. It's not a big deal. It's just a sign that they didn't do the greatest work on this guitar. But they didn't do bad work, because look how the bridge is set up. Like, the bridge is set up quite well, okay? So, like, there are some trade-offs, sure, because it's a cheap instrument, but in the end, I can't complain. I like it, and I'm happy with it. It suits my purposes because they're limited, right? So, I do actually recommend it. I love the body. I bought this specific model because I was looking for an offset body with, this type of aesthetic appearance, and I'm happy with the way that it looks, and I'm happy with the way that it sounds as long as I'm using it with a good rig. So let me show you what it sounds like first with a cheap amp and then with a good setup. So now I'm going to show you what it sounds like with just a cheap Fender practice amp, and when I turn both of these knobs up, there is a lot of buzz, even I would call it, not just hum, but buzz. So again, I could tell they haven't done the best work on this guitar. It's a cheap guitar, and it shows, because usually guitars don't have that kind of buzz. None of my other guitars, even the cheapest ones, don't have that kind of buzz. But it's okay, because I'm not going to be using this live or anything. So here's what it sounds like through my cheap amp. It's low. It's very low, beefy, heavy, dark. The pickups are nothing to write home about, but I just don't consider them anything to complain about at this price point. I'm happy with them. They're good enough for me. It sounds good to me, good enough for practice. Like, I'm not going to be recording anything or playing live with this amp. I just wanted to give you a basic idea of what this sounds like, but it does, of course, sound a lot better through a nicer rig, which I might even use to record something with. So let's check that out. So now I hooked it up to my Headrush gig board, and I put it through my favorite rig, Mark 8. So let's see what that sounds like. It's really, really awesome sounding now. So yeah, the not great pickups do actually not matter that much, at least to me for my purposes. Once I'm putting them through a nice rig, they sound more than good enough. I really love the sound that I get out of them. And you might be a pro who has higher standards than me, because you're going to be doing a lot of recording and playing out. And in that case, a cheap guitar probably isn't for you, right? But if that's not you, and you are like me and are just looking for a baritone guitar to screw around with, or play a few songs with here and there, experiment with, or potentially tinker with and upgrade and customize, this is actually a great guitar for those purposes. And this may be the guitar for you, or at least the brand for you, because from my market research, this is the cheapest baritone guitar on the market. All right, you're not going to find any other baritone guitars even in this price range. All right, the other baritone guitars that I found were at the very least a whole step up of multiple hundreds of dollars. Okay, I got this guitar for like around $200, like maybe $210 or $215. Plus, of course, tax and shipping, so it ended up being like around $250 or something like that. And because I cannot afford to pay more than that, this was my only option, and I'm very happy with it. And I would have sent it back if I wasn't, okay? I wasn't going to just settle for it if it was a really crappy guitar, and it's not. It's a good guitar, especially for the price, that I'm happy with and I think is great for the purposes that I'm using it for. And so if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of money and you want or need a baritone guitar for similar reasons, I do highly recommend Firefly baritone guitars, because it doesn't get better or cheaper than that. Alright? While there's going to be some trade-offs, you're going to be dealing with a heavy instrument with pickups that are not the best, and there's that. I mean, this is the type of trade-off that you have to deal with sometimes when you are paying for really cheap things. And I could, if I wanted to use this more professionally, take it to a luthier to tinker with it and perfect it for me and spend some extra money on that, you know, maybe another $100 or so. I could replace the pickups entirely and spend, you know, another few $100 or maybe a little more if I really wanted to go all out. But honestly, I don't foresee myself doing that. This is good enough for me. I may even record a Them Crooked Vultures cover with it as is, just to see how it comes out. So, you know, if I do, make sure you subscribe so that you can hear that when it comes out. But I do recommend Baritone guitars from Firefly. The Guitars Garden website does seem slightly sketchy because they're a cheap, I think Asian, maybe Chinese, maybe somewhere else in Asia. But they're a cheap, you know, guitar website, and so it does seem kind of sketchy. But I haven't personally had a problem with them. However, I did email them to ask them a question about another Baritone guitar, which it was a hollow body with a slightly shorter neck, and I did not hear back from them. So their customer service probably isn't good. Who knows if they even speak English? I mean, their website is in English, so I'm assuming they do, or they have someone working for them that does, but I didn't hear back from them when I emailed them. So there is a chance that if you have a problem with them and you reach out for customer service, that you don't hear back. All right, but that wasn't the case with me. I was emailing them before making a purchase. So it's possible that after making a purchase, if you were to email them by responding to the email that they sent you with your receipt, that they then respond to you there. You know, maybe they are better about responding to people who are already actual customers. I don't know, because I haven't had a problem with this guitar and haven't emailed them about this. All right, so that's been my experience shopping with them. Do with that information what you will. And just know that I like this guitar that I bought from them, and I'm going to keep using it and potentially even put out a cover of Them Crooked Vultures with it. It hasn't been a bad experience for me at all. You know, it's had some trade-offs because it's cheap, but that's to be expected. So all in all, I'm giving Firefly a good review, which is saying a lot because there are other websites out there that sell cheap guitars and guitar parts that do actually rip people off and scam them, such as Thomann and Guitar Fetish, which I have done reviews for, posted below in the description, so check those out and don't shop there. Guitars Garden seems like a better place to shop, but it's definitely not the best website for cheap guitars in general. It's just the best website for cheap baritone guitars, okay? So if you're looking for a non-baritone cheap guitar, you could definitely do better with other websites, such as, of course, Musician's Friend and Guitar Center, and find something that's not going to have so many trade-offs like that awful buzz noise. So I really recommend shopping at Guitars Garden specifically for a baritone guitar, if that's what you want, all right? So I hope that's been of help to you, and make sure you check out my other guitar reviews, and make sure you subscribe so you can check out my music, and otherwise I will see you guys in another video.